to fortune. Shagnabada's star was on the rise. The wheel had turned to their favour, and they seemed to be able to do nothing wrong. After 2 enormously successful UK tours created from scratch by Sarah, they were Georgia's darling, and certainly the people in the UK were constantly asking her, when were they coming back? David had resisted her talk of a 2012 tour and suggested they have a rest for a year, but, determined because that was the only way she felt she could stay close to him, she insisted. He had always said that the thing that kept them together was this passion for Georgian music, and while she agreed, she was beginning to wish he was more interested in her as a person rather than what he could get out of her. Assuming that the BMI sponsorship from the 2011 tour would not automatically renew, and full of fears about the BA takeover of the airline, she set out on the same path as before, phoning people, raising awareness, trying to get sponsorship. None was forthcoming, and as she went to visit David in Georgia February half-term, something inside her told her that this trip would be her last. Sarah was tired, so tired. Returning from Tbilisi that February, she knew she had to get out. No more tours, no more exchanges, no more hosting, no more performing, no more. The Georgian holiday also had to be cancelled. It had been scheduled for that summer. The beginning of the end had come for her when, sitting in David's car in the middle of a darkening February snowy afternoon, she had received a text from a journalist asking him about her visit, and she had reached over to touch him. She just wanted to try to communicate. She was still reeling from the night before. He pushed her hand away and told her to stop, in case someone might see. The tears had been instant. There had been no respite from the crying from earlier, and this led to even more accusations from him. Shouting and banging of fists on the dashboard were designed to frighten her into compliance and silence. She did not understand the situation, he said. He had told her over and over again why their relationship could not be public. He said it was just not the Georgian way. After nearly 3 years of constantly organising tours for Shagnabada, the strain was really showing. Now this rejection from David. Once again he belittled her. Once again he had shown to the world that he thought she was not good enough to be seen with him. Thinking back to the last night gave Sarah a physical pain. It had been baby Zura's baptism, and David was one of the godparents. The supper that followed was sedate, and in comparison to some of the supers Sarah had been to, David was unsettled and nervous. She had brought gifts for everyone, and as she knew in her heart that she would probably not see any of them ever again, she wanted to quietly give them out. David was clearly uncomfortable with this, so she waited for the right time. Eventually he said okay, and she gave her gifts discreetly. It was lovely to see the faces of her friends light up at the chocolate and cheese, and the little gift for the baby was received well. The boys started singing, and the atmosphere changed. David seemed to settle down, and Sarah relaxed a little. He still seemed to be ignoring her, and even though they were sitting together, there was a gap between them that she just could not breach. David turned to her. At last, Sarah thought, he's more comfortable. He had drunk more than she had realised, and he asked her if she could drive. Thinking fast, she knew she had her driving licence and had not had anything to drink, so she said yes. He said, "We're leaving." Bemused, Sarah asked why, but he ignored her and said he was leaving first and she was to follow in 5 minutes. He got up and left. Speechless, Sarah sat in a cloud of abandonment, suddenly conscious that she was completely alone. It was as if everything was in slow motion, and the gap he had left at her side at the table seemed wide and conspicuous. With a deepening realization, she knew she was alone in a foreign country with no one she could turn to. Even if it was not possible to be open as lovers, she was, at the very least, his guest from the UK. He had humiliated her again. Her first thought was to try to leave with as little fuss as possible, so she tried to gather her bag and coat so as to make it look like she was going to the bathroom. Miserable, she pushed past her friends and tried to keep her head down. By the time she got to the door, she was fuming. Who the hell did he think he was? Everyone in Shavnabada knew they were in a relationship. They had fought earlier in the day about whether or not they knew, and he had reassured her they all knew about their marriage plans. Why was he behaving like this? Joining him outside, he was already in the car, sitting in the passenger seat. Before she could get in, however, a friend Mazika came out and asked why she was leaving without saying goodbye. Humiliated, she replied through choking tears. David wanted to go. Driving through the chaotic roads of Tbilisi, David shouted at her and grabbed the wheel, telling her to go faster. He was drunk, and even though he asked her to drive, he still dominated the car, steering from the passenger seat. Her mind raced as she realized she was trapped. She had given him the £500 she had saved in an envelope for the last 6 months to help cover her costs while she was here, and he had taken it without a thank you. As far as she could see, their outgoings were minimal this time. In the past, her money had paid for apartment rental and food. This time, on his insistence, she was sleeping alone, in his bed, in his parents' apartment. She spent the rest of the week